Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been minutes since we last spoke, but I just gotta say, you're breathtaking. You're unbelievably fantastic at just being you. I wanted to throw that out there, and now it's time to learn a little bit of StarCraft. On Tuesday's episode, we inhaled our own saliva. I feel self-conscious about that, especially given that I was oogling at you about 15 seconds ago. On Tuesday, we talked about principles of micromanagement that sort of underlie everything. The idea of identifying deficiencies in shapes, properties of different shapes. We took a look at some of the unit pathing behavior, learned a little bit about attack moving, the importance of not stutter stepping, the ability to stutter step in some circumstances, and so on and so forth. And what we're going to do today is we're going to look at each race one at a time, starting with the Zerg pieces. I should probably open up this video. Fantastic. We're going to look at the Zerg pieces, going through all the units, talking about all the units and the specific tricks associated with them. Then we're going to go on to Terran, then we're going to go on to Protoss. It's going to be broken into 3 videos. I'm going to give roughly the same intro in all 3 of them. And I want to stress right now what I'm going to be stressing throughout. Some of the units are far more important to talk about and are far more microable than other units. For instance, I'm not even talking about the Devourer as Zerg. We're not even going to show you a video. I will lightly touch on it. It's nothing really to micro there. Zerglings, Hydras, Lurkers, and Mutas. Going to spend quite a bit of time on these ones. So that way we can really think them through and understand and appreciate them properly. So without any further ado, let's just head right in to the Zergling, this beautiful unit. Zerglings are a really, really powerful unit. Zerglings are actually some of the... I don't know, I'd argue that the best bang for your buck in the game, except for maybe the Vulture. Zerglings are all about one key concept. Identifying when you're safe. I begin with this video because this is 12 Zerglings versus 3 Zealots. And as we're going through these, I'm going to be relating this back to the key concepts that are going on. In the Tuesday video, notice that 12 Zerglings is the exact same mineral cost as 3 Zealots. All 300 bucks. And so for this reason, we can see that the Zerglings are able to deal massive damage to those Zealots if we're actually out in an open field. And I want to stress, in this video already, we're doing one of those micro maneuvers that we saw in the Tuesday's Micro Principles episode. Coming at it from the point so that way I can get a nice, good surround on it. If I were to hit that flat on, we know that there's a possibility of clumping and clustering that winds up happening. Here, get the easy Fabrizi surround. Every Zergling is firing in this right at the start. The exact opposite result will happen if we are attacking into a cluster. Very often, if there are Zealots that can get into the base, which happens all the time, if the Zealots are able to get into positions where maybe only 1, 2, 3, or 4 Zerglings are attacking at any given point in time, such as in this episode, or excuse me, in this video clip, jeez, I survived with 3 Zerglings. Still, the Zerglings are roughly cost efficient since I was able to get in there a little bit. But you have to understand that recognizing when you can be strong and when you are not is the key skill with Zerglings. This is the key skill. This is actually maybe even more important than any micro maneuver that you could do. If you see 3 Zealots out there, your experience and your judgment in game should let you know that 12 Zerglings beats 3 Zealots in an open field, but maybe doesn't do so good a job in a choke. One of the most significant advantages that you can get out of Zerglings, and again, stressing so much that lightning-fast judgment. All fast units have this property, and it's true about Zerglings as well. The Zerglings are great at picking off stragglers, not just in terms of in motion, but also out of motion. We saw on Tuesday that often units spread out as they're moving, and all the units will get where you right-click them to go to, but sometimes a unit might go up then left, while almost all the rest of his buddies go left and then up. And in this circumstance, this pack of 5 Zealots started as 5 here. This guy went up and is coming over. These 4 are going over before going up. I see this Zealot, so I just spring into action, quickly surround it by clicking past it and then clicking onto it, and then I escape. I've eliminated one zealot, and I've only lost a single Zergling. That is an extremely cost-effective trade. I think I also have another example here where this is 12 Marines, and I have 12 Zerglings, but these 3 are placed a little far apart. Sometimes players will do this when they are in a late-game Terran versus Zerg situation. They're spreading Marines out all over the map. They're trying to make sure that no run-bys happen, but maybe sometimes they don't quite allocate enough, and there's just 6 there. Zerglings are great at punishing and then getting out. And part of the reason why I'm including this in a micro video is the fact that it's very common for a Terran player to react immediately upon seeing this. The higher you get up, the more you have to account for your opponent reacting in time. So it's very important that when I made this decision to go in, I saw that these 12 Zerglings could both kill this, and that there was an escape route, which is up and left. These are both open routes, and that these were sufficiently far away. And sometimes you'll do a surround here, and I want you to imagine if these Marines were a little closer, like right here. Maybe these Marines, instead of being just off screen, coming onto screen, if they were just on screen, coming up, I should just retreat. I should just retreat. Zerglings and all Zergling micro is about the core aspect of Zerglings, which is the fact that it has the lowest health in the game. It has 35 HP. It dies so easily. So you must understand when you cannot fight and just pull away. And lo and behold, Day 9, who has 100 micro videos to show today, actually 106. Here's a great example of that. 12 Zerglings will lose to 5 Zealots in a fight. I see the straggler. I was trying to surround it, and then I'm like, dude, you know what? Nope, nope, nope. Maybe I can get some other straggling unit. Maybe there's some High Templar back here. Nope. And pulling right back out again. All I'm really doing is trying to hit on that core concept we began the principles of micro with. Identifying weaknesses in shape. In particular, identifying stragglers to pick off with Zerglings. Fantastic. Identifying good angles for the Zerglings to approach it. Very important to make sure that they properly surround. I stressed the importance of picking your battles with Zerglings. This is going to happen a lot as you try to improve your Zergling micro. You might say, ooh, I actually think I can pick off that straggling group of Marines at the bottom. I'm going to pre-arc my Zerglings to get a surround. And I'm going to try to just pick off these and... Whoops! Whoops, I guess I was wrong. I guess I can't win that fight. Happens all the time with Zerglings. I actually feel like far and away my greatest skill with Zerglings, there's the ability to build them, is just I grew up loving Zerglings. I built them in almost every match. I've tried to do Zergling-based ZVZs, tried to do Zergling-based ZVTs, Zergling-based ZVPs. My God, I went through all the matchups. I can't believe you made me withstand that. And it helps develop a good sense of judgment of when the Zerglings can go in and when they can't. And things like this, I want to stress to you, happen all the time as you're learning. I don't want you to beat yourself up if you're playing a game and this happens to you. I've done this 1 billion times with Zerglings. Probably more literally like 40,000 times. There's maybe like at least 40,000 terrible Zergling decisions in my life. And so, again, all you are looking to do is you're trying to find stragglers like this. Now, what is sufficiently weak that you can pick off with a straggler? Again, it is about judgment, about understanding, hey, if this is actually 5 Dragoons, I might be willing to just go in, shoot one, and run away, because Dragoons deal damage a little slowly. If this is a High Templar up here, I'm going for this every time. Maybe if there's a High Templar back here, I'm willing to run through to pick off the High Templar and then out. Be looking for armies in motion with Zerglings to get opportunities for pickoffs. Okay. Other important things with Zerglings, another important concept for the larger Zergling numbers. This is a very common circumstance to happen in Zerg vs. Protoss, Zerg vs. Terran. you wind up in these late game situations where you don't have enough control groups. You're just sending Zerglings over. How do you micro in this fight in order to optimally control the Zerglings? You're looking for where clogging is going to happen, and then you're going to pull the units that are clogging out perpendicular to the angle of engagement. So the angle of engagement is directly right. So I'm going to be grabbing the chunks and peeling them down, or grabbing the chunks and peeling them up. It's a little hard because there's a tree here, but I want to try to peel things out of the way of the incoming army so the incoming army can continue to flood in so you can keep arcing. The super ideal would be coming from all sides. I talk about that in the large-scale army control video that we did probably a few months ago at this point in time. But in these small situations, if you're coming in at an angle and you're trying to do micro optimizations, you notice I'm pulling perpendicular, pulling these perpendicular up, pulling more perpendicular down, trying to sweep across. I'm doing essentially the same thing all the time. I'm grabbing clumps of units and trying to peel them around so that they do not interrupt those angles of motion. Some of the skill that is very important to highlight, very often, let me actually, can I just minimize this? Let me actually close this. Okay, so here's my desktop background. I'm going to do, you know, a lot of people, when they want to make a box, instead of making a small box like this around the units, they'll make a very large box. They'll just box everything on the screen. This is a habit that emerges from people playing with small amounts of units, perhaps infinite unit selection in StarCraft 2, or playing in MOBAs where you only have 1 or 2 units on the screen. The skill that I am having right here is small boxes and a controlled mouse movement. If we watch very slowly, even here, I'm doing relatively small mouse boxes. Look, that's a very small box on the screen. It's a very small box, very small box. Very small box. This is how I'm able to have a very deliberate set of formations with these Zerglings. If I do huge boxes, like for instance, perhaps this moment right here is where a lot of times people will just make a box from here all the way down to the other side of this tree. There's way more than 12 Zerglings in there. So I make a small box behind this cluster of Zerglings to try to just peel those out of the way. And then I'm looking for clumps of 12. Not big boxes. Not big boxes at all. Boxing, clicking, calm, controlled. I think I have this video that says okay to disengage. So I have this video is okay. It says okay to disengage. I think in this fight, I just decide that I'm probably going to lose this fight. And again, I'm doing just boxes in. Imagine we're in a late game Zerg versus Protoss and you don't have enough for control groups. This skill is a little hard, where you actually have to box against the grain. Box against the mode of traffic. And to a certain extent, it's almost important that you box and send back parallel to your line of engagement, because if you're retreating parallel, you're blocking your other units from going into that bad engagement. And it looks like I survived with about half the Zerglings. It's totally okay. You don't have to commit all your Zerglings to death. You can conserve them, even though they're very, very fragile units. Another important micro trick. These vultures here have planted some mines. Be sending those lings in one at a time on move commands. Sending them on move commands, sending them on move commands. And as you're getting in, mines take quite a while to pop up. Just run past units, and the mine will, the mine will invariably end up popping on the friendlies. So like right here. We cleared out most of the minefield. I see some more mines popped up and reburrowed. I just take 2, run them right past. Boom. Important that I grabbed 2, not 1, because we're getting closer to units. He might shoot down that first Zergling. Sometimes I'll just grab like 6 Zerglings if there's a lot of vultures and just march them right in. One of them's got to set off the damn mine. And one last thing to talk about. This is similar to the Zergling peeling around the sides shape that I showed earlier. Suppose we're late game Zerg vs. Protoss. We're sending in all sorts of armies. Shape, understanding deficiencies in your shape, is the big core to making good micro decisions. And so if I'm against Templar, what's the big deficiency in shape that I want to avoid? Clumping. I want to avoid clumping because then he'll storm. So I pre-sent some Zerglings around here on the top side. That's great. Very weak storm. And also here, I'm trying to peel some Zerglings out by just box, click, retreat, box, click, retreat. I don't worry about this storm. It sucks that that storm's placed there at the back, but units are continuing to run through. You know where there's a real vulnerable clump I wasn't paying enough attention to? Right here. This clump here, baby. If we look, I actually think I made some significant mistakes here. These Zerglings engaging at the front are fine. There's a lot of Zerglings engaging below. What I need to be doing is grabbing these lings and pulling them right. Instead, I try to pull them back. I pull them back, and they just get clumped. Ugh. I needed to pull more things way far to the right. I start to do that, but I should still be doing more right-moving things. Look at this cluster here. Oh, I get owned. So I would say I avoided 2 significant storms there, and then got owned by some storms in the end. In terms of numbers, I have no idea if this is a fair fight. I don't know if, as Zerg, I would have won that had I dodged those storms. The purpose was for him to have enough units and enough energy to throw down a few storms, and for me to have enough Zerglings to do a few waves. And whether I was supposed to win that fight or not, you can clearly see I clumped the Zerglings, and I got owned. So, identifying those clumps and trying to peel perpendicular to the wave of engagement. Alright, we're done with the Zergling mail. Let's talk about the Hydralisk. Hydralisk is a ranged unit, and as you saw in the Principles of Micromanagement, you're always trying to do these triangular movements where you're keeping things in the center and pulling back the units to be sort of around. Also in this, you're seeing that Hydralisks have an extremely quick attack rate. It's critical that I not be moving in order to maximize damage, so I want small movements with very few Hydralisks at any given point in time. That is one of the most important things to see here in this Hydra Micro video. Just like one, or maybe the one behind, blocking. The other type of very basic micro from the Hydralisk is true for pretty much all ranged units. You see enemy units. These have more range than my Hydras, so I walk my Hydras closer so all can be shooting at once. Also, I'm target firing. I'm picking one Dragoon, I'm having all my dudes fire. I take a brief step forward to ensure that everything is in range of everything. I can continue, I should say, I scoot forward to make sure everything on my side is in range of everything on his side, so I can continue to target firing. Wind up winning a very efficient engagement there. This says bad micro versus zealot. Ah, yes. This is 8 zealots versus 12 Hydralisks. Hydralisks feel sometimes a little bit like Zerglings. If you pick bad fights, you can just wind up losing quite badly. Hydralisks are very strong Hydralisks are very strong at exploiting good positions because they're very small units. Hydralisks can actually get behind corners and shoot pretty far. And so, whoa, I went way ahead. Whoa, okay. We were just showing this video. Here, we have 8 speed zealots versus my Hydralisks. Again, Hydralisks are pretty small and path pretty well a lot of the time. So I can just scoot back into these positions and be really obnoxious. Notice that now that I've gotten him into this position, again, I'm selecting as few Hydralisks as possible. And I actually end up winning this fight. You'll notice that I have one Hydra here, kind of playing Ring Around the Rosie, just distracting the Zealots. So for Hydralisks are not actually very much of a super high-intensity micro unit where you're doing all this crazy stuff. You know, most of what you're actually doing is really basic pulling a weakened dude back and trying to spread around. You're trying to dodge storms, things like that. But coming in at certain terrain angles and exploiting that can be really possible with Hydras. And I stress possible because often when people see units, the red mist descends and they just go all in. They're just attacking until they're done, until one side is completely wiped. Hydras are fast enough that they can retreat. They're small enough that they can get themselves into... Geez, I'm really bad at this. They're small enough that they can get themselves into good corners and good positions. The only circumstance in which Hydralisks are vulnerable in a sort of big way, probably the biggest thing that I look for when I am doing stuff with Hydralisks, is I really want to avoid being clumped. Here I have a Reaver. And sometimes you'll be like, oh my god! Oh, kill it! Looks very one-sided, right? But spreading these out is actually pretty easy. I just literally pre-spread. And remember, units in StarCraft 1 tend to stay in formation and tend not to cluster together like in StarCraft 2. If you do any slight bit of pre-spreading, it's no problem. And so I start shooting. I spread this out a little bit. I keep shooting. I wonder, what the hell is this tank doing here? And then the Reaver dies. In case any of you are wondering how I recorded these videos, I played a team melee against my friend Trask, where we each had Protoss, Terran, and Zerg pieces. And so we're each able to make everything. So there's this like tank who's here who's like, oh, I want to be in the micro video. No tanks, sorry. Reaver only gets one shot. If you can actually kill a Reaver with 3 Hydralisks if you spread them out like this. I have the name of this video is Avoid Clumping. Hydralisks follow a lot of the same properties in large army engagements from the perspective of micro. By the way, let me stress this. I'm going to compare a lot of units to each other. I'm comparing them on the basis of micro, right? Hydralisks are very different units from Zerglings in terms of what they do damage-wise and how they receive damage. Hydralisks can shoot up, all right? Zerglings can't. Zerglings get a crackling upgrade and have like the highest damage output in the game. Hydralisks are very mediocre damage output. But when it comes down to these swarms, we're still going to see the same properties micro-wise between Hydralisks and Zerglings. Big clumps of units marching on in. And I'm going to be looking to spread. So I grab and I'm pulling perpendicular. I'm looking for clumps. I see this clump and I'm like, ah! And notice that I'm actually grabbing this entire column to pull back. This is a bigger version of the very small micro I was talking about on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I was showing some Zealots engaging Marines. And there was one Marine in the front and one buddy behind him, and I selected both of them in that column and pulled the whole column back. Because I can't retreat just the weak one. The weak one is blocked by his buddy behind him. Same thing's happening here with these Hydras. I actually would have rather selected slightly more and pulled the whole thing back. So you can see... Oh, I did do that. God, I'm the man. So you'll see that, again, the Hydralisks, they're doing the same spread out and kind of, you know, gape around all of the Zealots. But I'm trying to pre-select and pre-look for clumps. So I'm doing a pretty good job. I pre-selected this to retreat because I could tell that it was clumped, and I wanted to pre-retreat and then spread out and engage. Pre-retreating means the storm hasn't come down yet. I'm just seeing that that's the obvious good place to storm. And now, here's one of the ways in which Hydralisk can be different from Zerglings. Once the front line falls, Hydralisks can deal damage from a much wider range than Zerglings can, because Hydralisks are melee. So instead of simply peeling perpendicular or declumping, I can run straight forward with the Hydralisks. So this storm, I dodge by walking straight forward, and I'm actually telling my units, a lot of them, to just march forward in order to kill this force. So that's a bit about the Hydralisks. Really simple movements, trying to declump in a lot of similar ways to the Zerglings and being willing to move forward. I want to talk about the Lurker. The Lurker is a unit that, in many ways, does not have that much micro to it. Here's the bulk of micro that you'll do with Lurkers, right? This Terran player is going to stim a Marine and run it up the side, and then try to stim in with the rest of the Marines and go in. This Lurker fires here. This Lurker fires here. That's bad. I don't want that. I want both Lurkers firing at the clump, so I just box select and I right-click on the Marines. And I was actually a little late on that target fire. You'll actually see this Lurker gets 2 shots off on this guy. So, this video intro is longer than I expected. Come on. Come on, do it. Do it, video. Yeah, see, there's 1, and here comes the second one, 2. Yeah, didn't target fire in time. And so I would look at that and I'd go, oh, that's the micro mistake. If I target fire, I just murder that huge row of Marines, and it's no problem whatsoever. Most of the skill with Lurker is not a micro skill. It's about choosing where to place. This is a weak position to be placed in due to the fact that it could be easily surrounded from multiple angles. If you've seen the Zerg vs. Terran videos, placing 2 Lurkers on top of a ramp, beautiful. Unbelievably easy. You don't even really need to focus on them that much. They're almost always firing right down the ramp. So target firing, though, is a sort of underutilized skill for the Lurkers. And in many circumstances, you can deal insane damage by just properly flanking. So here is a lot of Zealots. I have 2 control groups of Zerglings and 4 Lurkers. And this is 12 Zealots and a Templar with Storm. This army should annihilate my army. But I come over here and I burrow at the flank. Well, you've heard me talk about this bar shape, right? You're starting to see that whenever army lines meet up, there's this long bar shape. And so we just burrow at the point of that shape. And then I'm just right-clicking. Look at that. That shot got so many Zealots. And then this second shot. All those Zealots were so squishy at the end. I was actually really surprised I won this. Now, in the same way that I'm going to tell you to... Where'd that video go? Is this it? Oh, thank God, this is it. In the same way that I just showed you, ooh, Lurker flanking is really fun. I'm sure someone's out there. It's like, yeah, I can't wait to try that out. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Be real careful, because if you burrow all your Lurkers together like this, a player can just storm them. One storm brings Lurkers down to almost no health. A second storm just kills them. So, in this last video, if my opponent weren't simply fighting into a bad position for the sake of example, he would just pull away, storm the Lurkers twice, kill them. And now what do I have? 18 Zerglings, no support, versus still 12 Zealots. It would be a very bad position for me. Typically, you want to have your Lurkers spread out semi-reasonably like this, to where each Lurker can't be hit by one storm. Sometimes 2 Lurkers will be able to get stormed. That's what I scooted them over for. And because of this, when you're doing large army control, where you have a lot of Lurkers and a lot of Zerglings, it's real tempting to just select all your Lurkers and just burrow them all at once. I encourage you to just grab 2, like burrow 1 here, burrow 1 here, burrow them like this, kind of burrow them in these leapfrogging patterns, just while your army's moving. A lot of the times I really feel like Zergs shouldn't even have their Lurkers hotkeyed. They should just unburrow them, control move click, have all the rest of the units on 1, 2, 3, and 4, whatever your hotkey setup is, and then just individually burrow them. Because at this point in time, look at this, you now have kind of like a Lurker field that's very obnoxious for Protoss to deal with. And I realize now, I'm missing a video, so I'm actually going to go ahead and snatch that up. I hope it's still here. I hope there's the Zerg vs. Terran. How do I even organize this? This is Zealot versus Hydra. Episode, is it 21? I think this is it. Where is... Forgot to move this one thing over. This says Lurker Ownage, Lurker Ramp, Lurker Surround. Let's see if these are it. Let's see if these ones are it. Let's try this one. All right. I don't know if this is the correct video. I don't know if this is the correct one. I think I just carefully disengage from here. What happens in this? I don't know. Here's the video that I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find a video of lurkers versus tanks. Just moving the lurkers up, burrowing, and picking them off. Semi-neutral. Ah. There we go. Shoo! Alright. So here is... So still on the topic of the lurker, I'm very glad I took the 30 seconds to maybe look a little dumb for the purposes of finding educational material. Very commonly with lurkers, you'll just be retreating. Nothing wrong with retreating, right? Retreating, though, is not really a key micro technique. Here's where the micro technique comes in. Lurkers, you saw the video where the lurker flank existed, and it's very tempting to try to run all your lurkers to get huge hits on the Marines, because lurkers, two-shot Marines. In many cases, it's better to just burrow within range of the tanks. Here, I'm burrowing pretty close to the tanks. It's often better to just have the lurkers burrowed just barely in range of the tanks. And then you can just start ripping through just the tanks, and then both people get to disengage. Terran stayed a little bit too long here, but at this point, Terran could just simply disengage. And so that is an important technique with lurkers against tanks. If you don't have defilers, if you don't have mutalisks to pick off, burrowing the lurkers just barely in range of the tanks, the Marines can't go up and fight. You get just the tanks dead, and you can move on with your life. Okay. Time to talk about the Mutalisks. First thing. Mutalisks are the Mutalisks, Marines, and Protoss doesn't have anything. It's really Mutalisks and Marines are the two units that a lot of people... Oh, God, I completely forgot. Shuttle with Reaver. Shuttle with Reaver, Marines, and Mutalisks are like the three archetypical heavy micro units. So I'm really excited to be talking about Mutalisks right now. First of all, Mutalisks are a flying unit with hover. So because they have this hover ability, it means that if you are clicking move when you attack, like move, 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 a click, move, 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 a click, move, 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 I can shoot and move at the same time. Against an enemy, you would simply A-click anywhere, and your Mutalisk would just shoot. Because it's my own Mutalisk, I actually have to manually A-click on it. But the important thing is that Mutalisks can move and shoot at the same time. Also, as I've talked about a lot of times, but I'll talk about it again, if you have a bunch of Mutalisks selected with one Overlord far away, the Mutalisks will cluster, so you move in small circles to ensure that they're packed tightly. And then this allows the Mutalisks to go up against Scourge. And I think here I don't even do anything. I just move in little circles. This is some of the most fundamental micro that you're actually going to ever do with Mutalisks. Is just moving against Scourge. And notice how I'm able to wiggle around and kind of peel the Scourge off me. Because the Scourge is not quite tracking onto the Mutalisks. It's tracking slightly behind the Mutalisks. So, against small numbers of Scourge, a very easy micro trick is you hit patrol and click directly opposite the line of engagement. So, here's the Scourge, here's the Mutalisk, I'm going to hit patrol here. Allows for a very fast turnaround shot, But you'll notice my Mutalisks do decelerate slightly. I whiff it there. And after that video, I actually guess I put these out of order. In this case, with just one Mutalisk versus just one Scourge, I want to show some of the ways that you can use a Mutalisk to evade a Scourge. I mean, the most common one is just by changing your angles. Sometimes sharply. Notice that I moved up, and then I quickly went left, so I'm doing a round angle, and then I'm noticing it's starting to track up. I gotta do this in slow motion. I can't say this quickly enough. So I'm doing a big rounding shape, and then I'm starting to go that way, and then I do a sharp turn. You see, big, I'm going to round to the right, round, and then sharp turn to the left. So I'm rounding down to the right, I'm rounding down to the right, I'm rounding up, and then I'm going to do a sharp turn down. See how consistent that is? Big round turn, or big, large arc turns followed by sharp turns. Throws Scourge off a lot. So there's another sharp turn. So this is something, I feel like this is slightly outdated. But this is, you've heard me talk about the Chinese triangle. It's where you're going to click up here, behind, and then forward again. Up, behind, forward. And you notice the Scourge followed to the top area. So basically, you rotate back, click through the triangle, and click forward. So I'm clicking forward, I click up, and then I move down, and then I go forward again. I really don't do this very much. Most of the time, I just shoot the damn Scourge. Ugh, failure. But this is a lot of how players are able to get the Scourge into good angles. By doing these arcs and these turns, they can get the Scourge close when they want to get a close shot, because Mutalisks don't have long range. Or they buckle away in order to get a little extra breathing room so that they can shoot. So here's the trick, okay? You want the trick? The trick's actually kind of comically easy in a lot of ways. You can do the click up in order to try to glitch the Scourge. But the real thing that players discovered is you click patrol on the clump of Mutalisks. So I'm going to take some hits there. See, I just patrol click right on the Mutalisks. Right on that clump. So this first set didn't go so well. This is a little hard because I don't have the best latency in this particular game. It was routing through a proxy server. But there, look, just patrol click on the clump. Gonna take a few hits. See, that's me. That little wiggle was me trying to peel the Scourge away. More Scourge coming in. And I would say I'm not really doing the best. I'm doing a very mediocre job. I would say I'm doing a barely acceptable job. This would be like, come here, little Scourgies. This would be enough to go even with an okay player. But I just need to practice more. I think I just keep telling Trace to send more Scourge at me. Send more Scourge! A lot of what causes the targeting to work or not work is the angle of the Mutalisks relative to the Scourge. And I'm often not at quite the right angle. There's great Mutalisk micro maps that exist where you can do just hours of practice, man. That's what Jaehyun was doing at the Holiday Bash. Now, Mutalisk Micro versus Marines, I'm way more comfortable with. Woo! Because it's way more decision-making based. Few things to note. One of the big things about Mutalisks and their micro is the same thing with Zerglings. You're looking for stragglers in the shape of the Marines. You're looking for one Marine to just be off on his own like this guy, and then you go up and you right-click on him and he dies. Pretty straightforward, yeah? Notice that I'm always kind of coming from the side. I'm not trying to hit head on very often. There's times when it's okay to hit that head on. But hitting head on is dangerous because there's more Marines that are going to be peeling around and shooting at you. If you're hitting from the other side, all the other Marines are moving away from you, you know. One of the really useful things that was discovered, I think in like 2006, is that if you right-click on a Marine, you'll kill it. Cool, right? Seems good. If you A-click on the ground, some targeting issues can happen. But what people found is that if you hit hold position, your Mutalisks will acquire the target really quickly, but they'll still be moving, and so you can turn them back around quickly again. What does all this cause? It causes the Mutalisk fire to spread in a small area. That's really the important thing. A-clicking on the unit or right-clicking on the unit picks off that one unit, but if there's a cluster of 2 or 3, and you click sort of you move towards the middle of it, and then you hit hold position, you can do a spray. So let's do it. I'm doing at a small speed, so I'm just coming in at an angle. This is not correct against a pack of Marines to come in at this angle. I'm doing this purely to show what happens when you hit hold position. See how the shots spread out a little bit? Oh, I see this medic, and I can't help myself. I'm like, kill the medic before we go on with the example. But here, I'm going to approach these guys, and then I'm going to try to pause it right when I hit hold position. See, notice, there's the hold position. That was the only thing nearby. And see how a few shots went here, a few went here, and a few went here? Marines don't actually have a lot of health. I mean, it's, what, 5 Mutalisk shots to kill a Marine? So if you can do, like, 5 on this guy and 5 on this guy, hey, you can maybe kill 2 Marines at once. Or maybe if they're already softened up. So I want to stress right now, I'm showing the technique. I'm doing nothing but hold position engagements just to show you the hold position trick. See, like, I would not have chosen to do that. Here, let's take those lessons about target firing, looking for stragglers, and then this hold position micro to look at a dance. What's Terran doing in this example? He's just moving up and down, up and down. No Terran player in a real game would move up and down for no reason, but in this particular game, this would be representative of a Terran player moving all the way across the map in one big long swoop. So here, that looks pretty good to me. I thought that guy was far enough away. That's a solid wall of Marines. Ooh, there's a medic here. I maybe could have gotten one, but I decide against it. All right, he keeps moving. These are pretty tightly packed Marines, so I'm not going to try to force it. I hear him stimming. He's keeping a pretty good wall of Marines. I whiff a little. That was a very mediocre shot. I probably took a little too much damage, but I managed to get 2 guys. Still haven't lost any Mutalisks. I think at some point I actually told Trace he was doing too good of a job keeping his dudes together. There, that medic, that's a pretty high-value target. Went in for her. I did a hold position move there because his stim had just worn off. His units were chilling for a moment. So now he doesn't have stim. I think it was right here that I was like, Trace, you gotta stop microing your units back that much. Make some stragglers appear. So I whiff a shot and then right-click. There's another right-click, and here's a good spot to hold position. Notice how the shots spread again. Hold position again to try to get the shots to spread, but my Mutalisks were not at the best angle, so it didn't fire. So after all this little dancing and exchanging that's happened, let me speed it back up to normal speed. Oh, shit, that was bad, Sean. After all this, I only just lost a Mutalisk. Also, I can't click. So this is why the Mutalisk is the standard unit to get in this matchup. Just to be able to hold off and to defend. Now, we're basically done with the core units. We've talked about Zerglings, Hydralisk, Lurkers, and Mutalisks in a lot of depth. And there's just not that much else to talk about with a lot of the other units. Scourge, I'm just going to take one Scourge and right-click on the Hydralisk. Obviously, you saw me do the Muta thing a little bit ago, but if I'm this Scourge, is there any way for me to improve my chances? Well, dude, yeah. You just right-click on the thing, and then you start to click past it. So notice, I see him curving this way, so I start to right-click my Scourge up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until my Scourge are right on top of his Hydralisk, and then I'm going to just hit A-click. Like that. I'm leading the Hydralisks. I'm trying to predict where he's going to go, and I'm just clicking there. This is a really important thing to do with shuttles and dropships. If you see a shuttle or dropship, just start clicking your Scourge past it, and then A-click, boom, and it'll explode. Cloning Scourge. There's a number of units that are only really notable for the fact that they can be cloned and should be cloned. Scourge are one of them. Cloning is, as hopefully you watched in the control tricks, it's where you have everything selected. You right-click one thing, Shift-deselect two, right-click another 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 thing, Shift-deselect two. And then your Scourge spread out really nicely. Except this guy killed something. Fuck him. Yeah, I guess I was happy. I guess I was a little loopy after doing this for 2 hours and 15 minutes. But this can actually be done quite quickly. This is not that fast, but... move far away. Head it straight on in there. Queens! Same thing. Queens got no fancy micro to them. And I want to stress, I'm spending very little time with Queens and Scourge and things like that, not because they're not really important strategically. We're just talking about micro. We're just talking about how can you eke extra value out of a unit. A lot of units like Queens and things, they don't. I mean, you can clone. I actually don't fire the last set of Broodlings because I want to actually kill this Dragoon with Broodlings. Yeah. Same cloning technique as before. The Defiler is a unit that is very tactical. It's very important that you put your Defilers in the correct places. It's very important that you have enough energy. It's very important that you put Dark Swarms down in good spots. But as I was actually spending time thinking about the micro related to the Defilers, there's just not very much. It's an incredibly important, incredibly fragile unit, but most of the reason your Defilers will die is not because you are microing them poorly. It's because you just were looking somewhere else and they died. So the first thing that I note is exactly that. I have 3 Defilers here. Just bring 1 Defiler. Leave the other 2 somewhere hidden. Defilers have infinite energy. So the first thing that I'll note in terms of Defiler micro is that it's really good to lead with the Dark Swarm and then send the units in. It's pretty damn important to do. There's certainly times where you send the units in and then you Dark Swarm on top. Certainly, sometimes there's a Terran player that he has a small number of units. He's sieging up. I send in the units, and right when they get there, then I swarm. So he has a small amount of time to unsiege. But make sure that you are actively deciding that. A lot of the time, swarming first, and then sending your units in is the correct choice. Sending them in. Yay! Burrowing the Defilers. Where should the next Dark Swarm be? It's tempting to throw it down here, so that way you have concatenated swarms. I don't think I used that word correctly, but that's what came to my mind. Leave a little space here, because these these lurkers are actually covering this area. So often it's dangerous for him to even be nearby. So this is very safe but efficient on the mana. Here's the thing that the one micro trick that I think is essential with Defilers is using hold position and spam clicking. spam that hold position button on all the Zerglings. Very often, you will have a battle going on. These Zerglings are going to want to run towards the army, or this Defiler is irradiated. The Zerglings are running away from the Defiler. Box everything you want to consume, hit hold position, select the Defiler, and begin spamming consume. Consume does not have a cooldown. And this is how you can very quickly gobble up lots of dudes. And again, notice this nice spacing. Cool. Ultras, they're just normal melee units. They function differently than Zerglings. They have different strategic properties, but in terms of micromanagement, oh, we have some clumping. I'm pulling them perpendicular to the angle of engagement. Oh, trying to make sure that things are surrounded, not selecting that many things at once. I mean, they're just normal. The name of the next video is Guardians Are So Shit. I love Guardians, but let's learn a little bit about why I get angry at the Guardian. Okay, so this Guardian can outrange this turret. Take this Guardian, right-click. Nice. Watch what happens when I attack move. I just think I click attack and then click on the ground. Why does he walk in range? Why? No. Shoot that. No! Alright. We got 4 more crabs. The Crablars are coming. Crablar! Attack! Alright, so you're seeing that I'm doing target firing now. I'm doing target firing. Is target firing the key to making Guardians not walk into range? Sometimes. Sometimes, but not all the time. So I'm going to take these Guardians. I'm going to spread them out. Oh yeah, by the way, at this point in the game, you'll never want to cluster them together. There's irradiates, there's storms. Just spread your Guardians out, man. So here, I am shift-clicking. I am move-shift-clicking from far away. I don't know what these Guardians are doing. I don't know why. Dude, Guardian AI is just not the best. The only lesson I have here is please babysit your Guardians. Please babysit your Guardians. Please babysit your Guardians. So I'm glad we got to end on the terrible AI of the Guardian, despite all the wondrous knowledge that was shared. The big things are declumping and battle selection for a lot of the basic units for Zerg. Mutalisks are very sexy and very great, but they're super, 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 super ultra fragile. Same with Zerglings, same with Hydras, making sure that you are picking the right battles. And if you don't think it's the right battle, man, run away. The best micro advice I can give you today is that it's okay to run away. There's nothing wrong with running. Just run home if you think you're going to lose. It's fine. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to take a 1-minute break, and then I'm going to return, and we're going to be doing Terran unit micro. So let's go ahead and do, for duration, 2 minutes. We're just going to do a 2-minute break, I'm thinking.